المشركين.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back. Huma says, I need to know about zakat. That is it given on a fixed day of the year or can be given in installments throughout the year? Secondly, should the zakat amount be given altogether to a person or a group, or can be given to different persons as required or requested? Firstly, zakat has two conditions without which there is no obligation of paying zakat. Condition number one, it reaches the threshold, the nisab. For cash and silver, it's the value of 595 grams or more. For gold, it is the 85 grams of pure gold or more. The percentage is 2.5% of each. The second condition is that a full lunar year passes while this cash, gold or silver, is in your possession. If 11 months and 28 days pass and then you spend it, there is no zakat. It has to finish a full lunar year. Now, can we give it in installments? The answer is no. The zakat is for the previous year. So once it finishes 1 year, you have to give it immediately. Maybe a day or two, delaying it for a reason, a week, maybe accepted, but shouldn't be more than that. Because it is the right of a poor person. One says, okay, I have a poor relative, but my zakat is due today, and my relative will come in 5 months' time, and I cannot transfer it to him. What should I do? Give your relative a call, if he's poor and needy, and tell him that I have XYZ of zakat for you. So how do you want me to deliver it to you? If he says, keep it with you until I come 5 months later, no problem. You are entrusted with it. If he says, give it to someone to bring it over, then this is his wish. And by calling him and taking his instructions, you would have paid your zakat on time. If you are unable to communicate with him and take his authorization, give your zakat someone else. Do not give it to your relative, because you cannot wait for 5 months with the zakat with you without his prior authorization. Now, can we give it in installments of last year's zakat? No, but you can do that for your next year's zakat. So today I gave 1,000 riyals zakat of last year. I have someone who's in need, so I calculate or I estimate that next year's zakat should be the same, 1,000 riyals, maybe a little bit more. So from today, I give this needy person 100 riyals per month until next year's zakat time or date. I calculate how much did I pay. I paid 1,200 riyals, 100 every month. Month. How much is next zakat when it's due? Is I calculate and I find that it is 1,500. So I have 300 balance to settle. I found out it's 1,000 only. Then 200 would be a normal sadaqah, and it's not part of the zakat. So I hope this clarifies things a little bit for you. Secondly, should the zakat amount be given to all together? Zakat, Allah mentions in the Quran in ayah 60, in chapter 9, Surah At-Tawbah, that there are 8 categories where you can give zakat to. And you can choose to give your zakat to all of these 8 categories. You can choose to give it to one category, but multiple people, like the poor. It's one category out of 8, but there are, let's assume, 100 poor people I know. So I divide my zakat over them. And you can give it to one person only. You have to analyze and come up with the conclusion which is more beneficial. If I have 1,000 riyals and 100 poor person, and I give each one 10 riyals, it does not do any of them any good. Because yes, it is something extra, but it is almost negligible. While if I gave two of them 500 and 500, it would have solved their problems, paid their electricity bill, bought them food for a whole month or so. So I would have sufficed to, from being still needy and having 98 needy, rather than giving 10 each and having still 100 needy. So I hope this answers your question. A Muslim girl says, I want to ask how blood relationships work. Like if for some reasons a husband says to his wife that do not meet your this and that relative, so will she be held accountable for not meeting those relatives, even if she says salam in a good way, whether she meets them, whenever she meets them? Okay, this is a long topic, but let me first take this caller, Muhammad from Saudi.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Salamatullah.
Sheikh, I have two questions.
Oh, Mamdouh, huh?
Mamdouh, yeah, Sheikh.
Okay.
Sheikh, how are you?
I'm fine. Hayyak Allah.
My first question is, I was supposed to bath a ritual bath before the ritual bath.
Okay.
But I forgot. I couldn't bath, and I went to pray, though. So it was later on, getting to ask that I remember that I was supposed to bath a ritual bath, and I forgot. So do I have to bath and pray the door, or do I have to go on a bath and continue with it?
Okay. Second question.
And my second question is, can I pay zakat to a kafiri, like a disbeliever, like a Christian or other kafiri?
Okay.
Someone who's not Muslim.
Okay. Any more questions?
No, sir.
I will answer you, inshallah. So let us go back to the Muslim girl's question. A woman, her husband tells her, do not speak to so-and-so of your relatives. Is he allowed to do this? This depends on his intention and if he has a legitimate reason or not. But let us take it step by step. He's either telling you not to speak to non-mahrams, such as your male cousins, or he's telling you to speak, not to speak to mahrams, like uncles, brothers, etc. In the first category, he has all the right to tell you not to speak to non-mahrams. And you would be sinful, even if he permits you to speak to them, if you do speak to them. Your cousins are non-mahram. What do we mean by non-mahram? In the States, if a person has a cousin, they treat her as a sister. They cannot marry her. And this is totally false and baseless. In Islam, a cousin is a cousin. The one you are not allowed to marry are your mother, your sister, your daughter, your paternal or maternal aunt, your niece from your brother or your sister. These are permanently mahram to you. But your male cousins are not mahram. For me, my female cousins are not mahram. I can marry them, which means that shaitan can come in between. So he has all the right to prevent you. Now coming to the other side, which is your mahram. If he tells you do not communicate with your father, your brother, your paternal or maternal uncle, your nephews, he has no right to order you to do this, because this is severing the kinship. And if he does, you do not obey him. But he has the right to tell you not to bring them home or not to go to their homes, because he may have a legitimate reason and you must obey him. But not to communicate or to talk to them, no, he has no right in doing that, and you can easily disobey him in this, but try to be diplomatic and do it behind his back. We have a short break. Stay tuned, and inshallah we'll be right back. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah and welcome back. Abu Ma'ruf from Saudi.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Assalamu alaikum wa barakatuh.
كيف حالك شيخ؟
حياك الله أخي بارك الله فيك.
Sheikh, in
Yes.
some continent area, people do not get married during the months of Ramadan and Muharram.
Okay.
So this is the problem over there. I just don't know. They say this Hassan Hussein, was martyred in this month, so we mourn his death and all this thing, that thing,
Okay.
Yeah.
And
And
what-
the second question is, a person died. He was a Muslim, born Muslim with the Muslim parents, but was not circumcised due to parents' negligence. Is in UK.
Okay.
So he met with car accident, then his mental, balance was, disturbed. So since then, all his life he spent like that. Chain smoker, this thing, that thing. Then he died, without practicing Muslim, something like that. So who was responsible, parents or the relatives around him, that, why don't you pray? They didn't teach him how to pray, this thing, that thing, and all that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all. Thank you very much.
I will answer inshallah.
Thank you, thank you.
Brother Mamdouh says that if a person was in the state of sexual impurity, major ritual impurity, and he forgot and went to pray, and then remembered afterwards, is his prayer valid? We know, Brother Mamdouh, that there are conditions for salat, and every Muslim has to know this. Because your salat is not valid without knowing the conditions, without knowing the pillars, the obligatory acts, and the sunnah acts. How would you pray? So one of the most important conditions of salat that comes before salat is to be in the state of purity, major and minor. And this is the ritual purity, because there is the physical purity, which is on my body, my clothes, and the spot I'm praying in. This is a different part of purity. I'm talking about the ritual purity, which is something that I cannot see. So if you are in the state of major ritual purity, whether because of nocturnal emission, because of having ejaculation, intercourse, or if a woman is in her menses and got pured, or in her postnatal bleeding, you have to perform ghusl. Otherwise, your prayer is invalid, whether deliberately, knowingly, or unintentionally. The ruling is the same. Your prayer is invalid. So what you have to do now is to perform ghusl and to pray all the previous prayers that you had prayed in the state of major ritual impurity. His second question was about paying the zakat to a disbeliever. The scholars say that the zakat must not at all be paid to a disbeliever, only to Muslims, except in the third category. إنما الصدقات للفقراء والمساكين والعاملين عليه والمؤلفة قلوبهم. Except in the fourth category, which is those whose hearts are inclined to Islam. And it's an issue of dispute, but the most authentic opinion is that if there is a tribe's leader or someone of prominent position in the society who is not a Muslim, but he's inclined to Islam, he says positive things, he always praises Islam and the Muslims and defends their cases, and we believe that if we give him some of an incentive that would have a positive impact not only on him but also on those following him. In this case, the scholars say that we can give him from zakat. And this is apparent in tribes like in Africa, when da'is like Sheikh Abdurrahman al-Samit, may Allah have mercy on his soul, one of the great da'is of Islam, used to go and visit tribes of 10,000 or 20,000 followers, and he talks to the tribe's leader and he gives him gifts and he gives him incentives and he calls him to Islam, and the man finds Islam nice and logical, and he accepts Islam, and the whole tribe follows him. Therefore, this is permissible. But other than that, no. To the poor, to the needy, you don't give them zakat money. You can give them charity, general charity. No problem in giving general charity to the non-Muslims. Abu Ma'ruf says that there are sects and cults that do not marry in Ramadan and in the month of Muharram. These are innovators. These people are ignorant because nothing is haram except what Allah has made haram. And thinking bad about Muharram just simply because Al-Hussein, may Allah be pleased with him, was assassinated in it doesn't mean anything. And as Muslims, we have no negative feelings towards the month of Muharram. On the contrary, the 10th of Muharram is a day that we as Muslims celebrate because Musa, who is better than Al-Hassan and Al-Hussein, without any doubt, he's one of the 5 strong-willed messengers of Allah. Anyone thinking that Al-Hassan and Hussein or any of the companions are better than Musa, he's a kafir. There's no doubt in that. So Musa himself, may Allah's peace and blessing be upon him, was saved alongside with his people from Pharaoh, and Allah made Pharaoh and his soldiers drown in the sea. So we celebrate this day by fasting it as the Prophet had fasted it, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and recommended us to do so. So what these people are doing is totally baseless and an innovation. And his second question was about a man who died uncircumcised, and he was mentally ill. He did not know how to pray, etc. Who's responsible? Everyone is responsible. If this guy was insane, he's mentally ill, he does not bear any responsibility to his actions, in this case, Allah Azza wa Jal has uplifted the pen of accountability. But if not, then he's responsible for not learning. His parents are responsible for not teaching. Those around him also are responsible. Fadl from Libya. Okay, I think we've lost Fadl. Mubarak says, does spending 1 dirham in charity in Laylatul Qadr, the night of decree, does it equal to spending 30,000 dirhams in other months, because 1 times 30 times 1,000? No, this is totally baseless. It has no relationship to the multiplication in Laylatul Qadr is not true. It is better than 1,000 months, but it doesn't mean that if I spend 1 riyal, it will be times 1,000 months. If I pray 2 rak'ahs, like some people circulate this broadcast and claim that Sheikh Mahir al-Ma'igli of Al-Haram stated this. This is totally baseless. Darwish says, can a child draw a picture of living things as part of his school activities or studies? No, this is not permissible to do, and we have to teach our children to stay away from haram things. Mazhar says, is it a sin to move upper body forward and backwards while sitting and saying the adhkar? I think what Mazhar is saying is like when we recite, we do this, or some people do this when reciting the Quran, and they rock forward and backwards. This is not permissible. This is not a sign of khushu'. Allah stated in Surah Al-Anfal, chapter number 8, that when Allah's remembered, when Allah's mentioned, their hearts is filled with khushu'. But not to rock forward and backwards like the Jews do when they go to do their prayers. This is not part of our religion. Arafat says, is there any problem if I recite all the du'as during sa'i by seeing the book and mobile without memorizing it? First of all, there are no fixed du'as in sa'i or in tawaf, except 1 or 2 that are prescribed, known to everyone. So these booklets that say the first round of sa'i, you should say the following, and then the second page is for the second round, and the third page is for the third round. All of these are innovations and not true. And the dua, once it comes from your heart to Allah Azza wa Jal, in your own words, never miss. Such du'as never miss. So always try to make your du'as from the heart and not things that you read and parrot without contemplating or knowing the meaning. Asif says, I've seen several Muslim women wear hijab with some artificial humps over their heads. Some people say it is haram and that is a sign of qiyamah. Clarification. Yes, this is a major sin. This is a sign of the women in hell, as the Prophet had said, alayhi salatu wasalam. Women must not do this. And unfortunately, this is so clear when you go to the Gulf countries and you see locals wearing their abayas and their heads and their hair is collected over their heads, and they look like proud peacocks. But this is haram. They're making a major sin. And they think that they're glamorous and beautiful, and such beauty would definitely have dire consequences in this life, let alone in hellfire. Mahiq says, does the dua of fasting person get accepted easily? Yes. Why is it said to pray before iftar? Because this is a time of accepting your dua. Sadia says, is eating cucumber or watermelon with dates from the sunnah? From the sunnah meaning, did the Prophet do it? Definitely. This is authentic. But is it recommended that we do it? The Prophet had never told us to eat it. This is his personal preference. As he did not tell us to ride a mule to work, which he used to do. So these things are not sunnah per se that drives you to Jannah and you get your reward. These are sunnah of customs that the Prophet used to normally do, but did not encourage his companions to do it.
إنني هداني ربي إلى صراط مستقيم دينا قيما ملة إبراهيم حنيفا وما كان من المشركين